Welcome to a special bonus episode of Wasteland. And we're joined today by Mary Claire Wood, the star of Wasteland. Mary Claire is an actor who has appeared on stage, screen, and in audio drama. She's also a poet, a writer with a stage play and poetry collection to her name, a model, and an all round good person. Mary Claire, welcome to this
What
Wasteland
an
bonus.
intro. Wow.
Well, I mean, I did some research, and
Well,
I
thank you very
believe I
much.
believe all of that is true.
It's very Daenerys Targaryen, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Breaker of chains, mother of
Add Mother of
dragons.
Dragons on the end of
Mother
that.
of
That'd be
Dragons.
great. I might
And
clip that bit and put it on my website, actually. That would be great.
okay, well, I'll send you the recording of that
Yeah,
later,
thank
so you
you.
can just And as you've heard, we also have the writer of Wasteland, Emily Inkpen, with us
Yeah, sorry,
today.
jumping the gun there. Hello.
Hello, Emily. How are you doing? So, Mary Claire, thank you for being with us and for agreeing to play Sarah Sax for us. Is Nova parked outside?
I wish we were allowed to bring things home from the studio. Um,
I'd
unfortunately,
need
they
to
took my
buy
bags
Max.
and I couldn't bring
Actually
it
had
back
the
with me.
budget to make her.
Yeah, that would be gorgeous, wouldn't it? No, I wish. She sounds like a hell of a lot of fun, so that would be nice.
And very useful for beating the traffic in London, I would imagine as well.
Yeah, doesn't fit in my house share though. That's
No, no, possibly not. Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine this thing padlocked up in the back garden now.
yeah, you wouldn't get the usual bike lock round it, I don't
I
think. It would
don't think so.
take some
No,
mess.
no, not so
Sorry, I'm
not
offended. You
terribly.
couldn't padlock Nova.
Well, I don't know, London these days. You'd lose her otherwise.
You reckon?
This is
You reckon
true.
she'd just
Yeah.
go off with anybody else? She's like that easy. She'd just be like,
She'd be up on
okay.
bricks. There'd be like someone would take her legs and she'd be up on bricks. And
Yeah, exactly.
yeah. Anyway, that's a very, very silly way to start the conversation. And I'm sure we will continue in that vein.
Mhm.
So,
Completely on brand. Yeah.
Mary Claire, I mean, Sarah Sax or Captain Sarah Sax. Sorry, I
Mhm.
forgot your
Full
rank
title,
there.
please.
We'll try and remember that in future, Mom. So, I mean, you've done quite a bit of audio drama with alternative stories. We'll talk a little bit about that shortly. But can you tell us a bit more about your acting career, please?
Oh, well, I graduated from drama school in 2019, which was almost the worst time you could do it because it was a couple of months before everything shut down and nothing existed. But it was almost a wonderful opportunity as well because that meant that myself and Chris met each other. So we met during COVID online, making friends through the wonderful Twitter, I think.
I
Got
think it
us.
might have been, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which wasn't
And
a hellhole back then, was
no,
it?
no,
It
back when
was
it was
wonderful.
that
Yeah.
lovely little bluebird and
Mm.
people were making friends online. And we just got talking online and I jumped on something with you, something reading poetry for you, I think was the first thing I
Yeah,
did.
yeah. I think that's
And
right.
it
Yeah, Phoebe Sticks
absolutely,
poetry, I think.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think who I'm still
Mm.
a massive fan of actually, Phoebe. She's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think that got me through lockdown really was us doing little pieces together and they've slowly built up and now we've got quite a repertoire of audio drama, don't we, behind
We
us?
do.
Yeah.
But but Wasteland, the first time we've actually done, well, I was going to say a full series. I guess it was a mini series, wasn't it?
Mhm.
And so, I mean, that seemed like a step forward. And
Yeah.
Emily, I know that you had Marie Claire in mind, didn't you,
Oh yeah, yeah.
for playing the
Oh,
role of
so flattering.
Sarah Sax? I mean,
We hadn't even met. I like, I'd seen your videos. We do workshops, and you do the videos, sort of talking about what actors, look for in a script and everything. So I'd seen you on video and heard your voice in all of the productions,
Mm.
and I had you in mind. And then it occurred to me when we did the table read that we'd actually never met, which was a really weird moment.
Yeah, no, it's really funny because I think our names have sort of been in the same circles online for ages and ages. Because I just looked through my email to be like, surely I've worked with Emily before this, like
mm,
surely, and we're on the same email chain back in 2020,
Yeah.
um,
oh,
from
right.
doing
Okay.
workshops, and
Yeah, yeah.
but for some reason it just never happened before now, and so
Mm.
for you to have been thinking of me was unbelievably flattering. I think that's kind of the nicest email you can get as an actor, is somebody going, "Oh, I thought of you for this," and you're like, "Oh, me."
Yeah. Well,
So great
and
for you, Ego. Thank you.
it was one of those no audition required ones as well, wasn't it? It was just
Absolutely.
like, given that Emily's actually been writing the part with your voice in mind, it would be perverse to cast someone else in the role.
It would also be quite awkward. I was so relieved when you said yes, because I thought, well, I actually have no idea who else would play this role. So it was like I felt like I had completely gone out on a limb with the level of assumption that I had about this, and gone out on a limb on the fact that we hadn't even met. Like there were a
Yeah.
lot of mental sort of obstacles that I had just completely ignored in this
No, I
process.
absolutely jumped on it though. Imagine if I'd turned around and been like, "Oh no, I don't fancy it." No.
Yeah, not
Would have
really.
been
No,
awkward.
definitely not. It was
Washing my
such
hair
a
that
lovely
day.
opportunity
Mm.
to have that put in front of me, and such a juicy role as well. I was like, absolutely get me in there.
Hmm.
Yes, please.
Well,
Oh,
more on the role shortly, but
Mhm.
I mean, you've also worked in film, haven't you? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've done a couple of film roles. I've worked in features and in shorts, which has been really lovely. It's crazy jumping from massive, massive production to smaller productions. And I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm saying they're just completely different ball games.
Mm.
And sometimes it's really nice jumping on a big film. Like I was fortunate enough to have a small role in a film called One Life, starring Anthony Hopkins, and being a tiny cog in a multi-million pound production is a really great experience for all actors, because you get to see how just you need to turn up, do your work, and then leave and not get in anyone's way. And I met amazing people through that and then also working on smaller shorts where you get to put life and soul into it, and it's about a bunch of creatives coming together and making something out of what
Mm.
little budget you can scrounge together. It's really fun. I love sort of the whole range of it. And jumping into theatre as well. I've just finished Panto in January, so
Oh no, you haven't.
oh yes, I have. And so it's fun to sort of go over every genre. That's I count myself very lucky as an actor that I get to do all of those things.
I
yeah, I
remember.
guess it's sort of like writing in that respect, because if you're a novelist, then also going into doing poetry, short stories, audio
Yeah.
drama, like being able to flex your muscles in different directions is,
Mm.
Absolutely.
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember seeing that film, One Life, at the cinema, and knowing that you were in it, but not knowing much more than that.
Yeah.
And it's just that moment when you appeared on the screen. It's like, my God, there she is with
uh,
Sir Anthony
and it is a
Hopkins.
moment. I would like to stress it's there for 10 seconds. I filmed for 3 days, but it's the typical case of, oh, look, that's my shoulder and that's the back of my head. But the experience of being there is worth it. If I would have done that for free, honestly, it was fun.
Mm.
And I got to do the fun thing of going home and being like, oh, I'm in that. When you walk past the poster.
Because it was actually quite a big film, wasn't it? I mean, it was
Yeah.
posters up all around London,
Mm.
and yeah, great
I'm really
cast.
glad that was my like one of the first things I've worked on as well, because it's a beautiful film, beautiful story, good cause, poignant message, and also lovely team. And I think when you
Mm.
jump on a lot of big productions, the stakes are very high, so people are stressed and people are hard to work with, and people have other things that are far more important. Whereas I had just the most amazing experience, and I was trying really hard not to leave the set. They'd wrapped me and they were like, "You can go home," and
Mm.
I would not leave. I was like,
Oh, I'm
"I'll
fine.
just hang
I'll
around.
just
You don't
hang
have to
around
pay
for a
me."
little bit.
And the director noticed, and he was like, "You can go home. Don't worry." And I was like, "Is it all right if I just watch you, because you're directing one of the greatest actors of all time, and it's this amazing set?" And he went, "Oh my gosh, of course you want to learn. Come sit next to me." Sat me in the assistant director's chair, put comms on me, and was watching, letting me sort of observe him as he showed me what he would redirect on the screen, which is just that's not something that happens. That's not something that
Wow.
happens.
Yeah.
And we've stayed in contact ever since. And the generosity of a director letting you in on that process,
Mm.
I was absolutely invaluable. Almost all of drama school couldn't compare to, that sort of
Sure.
10-15 minutes of letting me just watch him work. So that was,
Yeah.
yeah, an amazing experience. I was very, very lucky.
And
I wonder if someone did something similar for him at
Yes.
some point when he was on set and was just like, yeah, that, that
Come learn.
tracks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of gatekeeping of things in the performance industry in any way. I think because
Yeah,
it
yeah,
is
yeah.
so hard to make it that or make it work in any way for you as a career, that when people get to a position of power or decision making, they're so scared of sharing that knowledge. Whereas actually that's the most important thing they could do, is get to that position and welcome new creatives into it, because that's how
Yeah.
you foster talent in relationships, and how the end product becomes such a sort of act of love, if you see what I mean. Like, we were so collaborative in the studio, I think, and that
Mm.
was really lovely to hear everyone's input and everyone's creative voice in the same room.
Yeah, well, let's. I
Yeah.
mean, let's talk about audio drama then,
Hmm.
because um, another studio, another sort of form of creativity. Um, but it starts a little bit before actually going into the studio, doesn't it? Because obviously you'd seen the scripts
Hmm.
for Wasteland, and it's quite a complex character, isn't it?
Hmm.
Sarah Sax. What were your first impressions of Sax?
I thought, well, it was very interesting to see a leader that was so clearly passionate about what she was doing, but also had so much riding on it. So and also I felt like this air of, she had a slightly reserved nature, not from being mean-spirited or anything, but because she had been through so much and she was so experienced within that world. She's like, let the kids play, but she's cautious about everything that she does. So it's this interesting combination of someone who's clearly good at what they do and passionate about what they're working on, but has this level of, I don't know, cautiousness about how it's going. And yeah, it was such an interesting, multifaceted person to come across early on. Plus, I grew up listening to all kinds of sci-fi. So for me, I was like, "Oh, a captain!" Like, like get me in there, please. For someone who like idolized Janeway, for example, growing up, for me to
Yeah.
go in that kind of role was so fun. Like, I think, especially also having a female identifying leader is always a great opportunity to find out who they are as a leader, and not just woman captain, you know.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually, that it's funny you should mention Janeway, because there's that scene in episode 1 of Voyager
Mhm.
where she talks to is it Chakotay, and he's saying, what should I call you, ma'am, or
Mhm.
or whatever, and she's like, how about captain?
Yeah,
And let's just ignore the fact that I'm a woman and
yeah.
let's just call me
I'm
captain.
I'm captain, thank you. Yeah, so
Yeah,
so
exactly.
cool. That's very
And yeah,
Sax coded, I think. That's very,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
that was literally something I thought about when I called Sax Captain Sarah Sax. It
Mhm.
was that scene. Yeah.
Mm.
How fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Emily, so in creating the character, and we've mentioned that you had Marie Claire in mind, but there's things you do for actors, and one of them is kind of creating notes, but in the form of a video.
Mm.
And so,
Yep.
I mean, could you just tell us a little bit about how that goes, Emily, and then we'll go to MC and think about how you interpreted that.
Well, the character videos are basically me trying to provide everybody with like a foundation in the world, because I know that my worlds are invented. And I did a whole world Bible for this one, which sort of introduced people to the like overview, what's going on politically, history, where these characters come from. But sometimes, I mean, I know that not everybody takes in information in the same way, and sometimes video is good because you can watch it on the go, you can watch it while you're doing something else, and having that personal touch of just somebody being there just telling you about things
Mhm.
is a very different type of like way to take in information. So I did both. And yeah, so the Sax sort of background was sort of about her um, her as a leader, really, and her about her journey to becoming the leader, the research projects, the military research projects she'd been on in the past, her active duty, and the pivotal changes that she went through personally. And Sax is very much tied to the program in multiple ways. And that comes from her sort of her history. And we're talking, she was on jetpacks, she was on exosuits, and now she's in the mecha program. I'm very sort of nerdy about my definitions between exosuit and mecha, because the exosuit is like an Iron Man suit, or it's like the knights in Fallout. A mecha is like Titanfall. It's you sit in it, you drive it, you are a pilot. It's a very different thing.
I was given a full explanation of this, having got it wrong a couple of times.
Absolutely. This is very
stand
important.
On the naughty step.
Yeah, Nova is not worn like a suit. Nova is sat in and piloted. And yeah, so there's that sort of very, I find it distinct, but the way I see it is that the Xenosi military has gone through these phases, and they've arrived at mecha units as opposed to exosuits, which can malfunction, which happened with Sax. And then that experience sort of makes the mecha program almost more intrinsic to Sax's ongoing story. And so that was all sort of like me just sort of going into that, I think, in the introductory video. And so then you can go, okay, and layer on all of this beautiful personality that happens around those facts.
So was that all useful? I mean, I guess there's a danger it could become slightly overwhelming, that all that amount of information coming at you, Mary Claire. But how did you use that in preparing for the character?
So getting those videos was such a godsend. It was lovely, videos and notes and everything. As an actor, I love that. I love the research side of things. So, and also world building is so important that I understand. I think, sorry, I'm not making a full sentence, but when you're voice acting, it's so important that you know what you're talking about, because I think it's so clear when you strip away every other part of acting, so you can't see physicality, you can't see facial expressions or eye contact, that people can hear in your voice if you don't have conviction of what you're talking about. So for Emily to provide all this information so I could sit in the world and go, I would understand this mech and this difference between that and an exosuit, and I have this history of developing with the program. It lets you sit in that world a lot better, and I think that makes it so much clearer vocally for an audience. And I don't know, maybe people don't think about that, but it seeps through. Like if I've learnt a new term on the day, I have some context of what world it fits in and where it goes, and it makes it make so much more sense to me, and then comes through in the performance, I think. So thank you for the videos, Emily, they were really helpful.
That's good to know, because like really it can, like Chris said, it can be overbearing. So as a writer, and obviously I can talk about my worlds for it's like my subject of interest, I could talk about it for a week straight probably and not repeat myself. It's ridiculous. And so when I'm writing, like when I'm doing the videos, I'm like, try to keep it constrained. It's, the tangents I could go on would be,
it's lovely. I'd rather have more info to go back to than not have anything. Like just before this interview, I went back and watched just the little Sarra video that you sent me, and I was like, oh, like, yeah, I remember listening to that and being like, oh, so she'd be like this, or so she'd have this power, and this is how this would affect her. It's it's fun to go back to as well, because you can find her again.
So one of the things about Sax is this accident in her past, and so it's left her effectively without legs, and so I think that was one of the complexities about the character that I had some slight worries about. What were your thoughts about that, Marie Claire? And what were you able to bring to that part of the role?
Well, I myself am not a wheelchair user, but I have had some issues with mobility in the past. I had my right foot reconstructed, and I spent some time whilst I was recovering in a wheelchair for that, and then I spent quite a long time on crutches after that. And just that brief look into the world, you understand how differently it shifts your view of how you approach everything in your life. And to this day, I've become so aware of how many things are inaccessible and how many spaces you wouldn't be able to allow yourself into. And it's been such a journey to have your worldview shift that way. And then for somebody whose career and experience was based on their physicality and their whole worldview was based in that world, if you sort of mean, for that to change so drastically for a soldier and for their whole future to be put in the balance from that, that's such an interesting character experience. And then also for her to then find a way to move forward with this program that puts the stakes of this program so much higher for her. And then I think that makes the whole story shoot up a level. Everything that happens to the program is directly affecting Sax. They are intertwined in the same way that she interfaces with Nova. The program in itself interfaces with her life. And so that's such an interesting thing to tackle as an actor, of like, these stakes. It might just sound like the cancelling of a program to one person, and they might even the other people in the scenes, they're promising young soldiers they could move on to something else, there could be another program they want to take. There's not that option for Sax. It's a big fat question mark if this closes, and it's a bit of a bleak one at that as well. So it was a really interesting challenge to have to look at. And
I remember that scene in particular where Zerek delivers the news to Sax, and we'll talk about the lovely Sarah in a minute. But that I remember on the day we were in, while you were in the booth about to record, we were talking about the stakes of it, weren't we? And I think you really brought that to the performance. It was actually quite moving, actually, because we knew so much about the character, we talked about it. And then to hear that, I mean, you really did bring the stakes of it to life, and I think the listeners got that as well.
There's one thing that one of the reasons I've always wanted to work with you is that you have an incredibly precise way of delivering lines, which obviously comes from a great deal of thought that you put into these characters. And it's amazing to listen to you work, because you clearly imbibed so much and then got such a clear sense of who this person is. And then your delivery is just so on point. And it's just so, while other actors, I mean, everybody's got their own style and everybody's got their own approach to acting and bringing characters to life. But your delivery is so precise and so considered. And I think Sax needed that, because she is a captain. She's been through a lot. She knows herself. She knows her mind. And you just bring that naturally to the character. And it worked so well. Yeah.
Oh God, it's so hard taking compliments, isn't it? I wanted to fall over the desk then. That was. Thank you so much. I'm bright red. If anyone's watching the screen recording of this,
we can tint it in post production.
Okay, so good. If you could just turn my colour down a bit, that would be
contrast.
Thank you very much, Emily. No, I was very lucky in that scene that I was working with like lovely Sarah Goulding, who is such an incredible voice actor and gave me so much. Because I think when we were working on that scene together, and it was about being given the news that this program that my life was now dedicated to and linked to could close very suddenly and very soon. Sarah gave me so much to work with in that situation of being understanding and being genuine, but also being military. And it's an interesting environment when you're taking something that is such a heavy personal blow, even though it's work, technically. It was a really fun scene to play.
Yeah. Well, when and in a weird way, there's sometimes it's only when you have done all the post-production, you've done all the recording of the actors, you've done the post-production, and then you listen back to the show a couple of days afterwards, you're able to see the wood for the trees. And something that became very obvious was that the show really is about two relationships, and it's Sax and Zerakin, and it's Sax and Therese, I think. I mean, there's more to it than that. And Emily's probably glaring at me now, but no, it's about much more than that.
No, I mean, it comes down to relationships, doesn't it? It always comes down to relationships. The Dex Legacy series is about the kids, the three kids, Barry and Israel Wren. It's their core relationship, and then it's the core relationship between the adults, I think, also has a pivotal role. In Wasteland, I think Zerakin is the pivot character because she is connected to the mecha giant. She's also connected to the political side, so she's the one in the center. But obviously your relationship is the key one. You go way back. She headhunted you. She, you were out of the picture after your accident, and she remembered she remembered Sax and brought her back into the mecha giants, and and was the person she needed. And so there is this connection between you, and that came across so beautifully all the way through. Like your point of contact all the way is General Zerakin, patch me through to General Zerakin. You have a conversation. It's just always this, contact going on.
And Sarah played the two sides of that so brilliantly, I think, of being both this sort of politico and also, a member of the guys and, a member of the gang, and aware of the meaningfulness of this program and what it could do and the potential, but also the political side of the playing a game of chess, if you see what I mean. So I think she did such a brilliant job of that.
Well, let's talk a bit about Sarah, and I'm sure Sarah's listening. So hi, Sarah.
Hi, Sarah.
You had worked together before. Well, in one of those weird, I'm not sure, was it lockdown or just after, where we didn't go into the studio, but we did an audio drama together. Postcards.
I was inevitably wearing pajamas recording it, but
of course, yes. Yes.
Under the duvet fort, you're basically in bed.
Exactly.
Anyway,
I like to call it soundproofing, even though it is a blanket fort fundamentally.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Blanket over a clothes source. Yes.
Let me just step into my studio.
Yeah.
Cozy way to work.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, but something came out in that play, Postcards from Another World, by Fraser Armitage, who I'm sure is also listening to this. So hi, Fraser. There was this rapport. There was something there between you and Sarah that worked beautifully in that one, and I think we felt we could emulate in Wasteland, and boy, did we emulate it. So I would just say a little bit about, first of all, Sarah, but also the way that actors establish that rapport.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because on screen work, there's chemistry tests where they sit people opposite each other in a room full of people, will look at them and go, yes, no, it doesn't work. And I think almost that's lost a bit now. I think screen chemistry tests were great in the early noughties and late 90s. I think there's so much behind actors getting on screen now that is studio based and numbers based and art by directory kind of situations. Sorry if that was a little insight to what I think about casting now, but I think
your cards were fairly firmly on the table there, I think, Mary Claire.
Yeah. But then I think with voice acting, it's such a roll of the dice of these two might sound like distinctly different characters, but will they get on? Will they read each other in the same way? And it's been so fortunate that Sarah is so generous voice acting. I don't even need to look her in the eye. We can be in opposite booths and I have headphones on and she tells such a story that it's so easy to have that rapport with her. So it's absolutely my hat's off to her as an incredible performer. And yeah, nice, almost a nice little mentor, I think, in the industry for me. I get to see her work when I'm in the space, be like, wow, she can smash it every time.
Just an extraordinary actor, and has been in so many things in the world of independent audio drama.
Yeah, she's been in so much. It was like,
I think she said it's over 200 productions now, 200 separate shows that
smashing
she's
it.
been in. Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah.
I think it's well, and just so great, therefore, to get her into the studio and work with her in person, which we absolutely loved. One thing she did bring to the character, which I think had been described as a slightly sweary character, was even more swearing.
Yes.
And I was trying to imagine what it was like for you, Mary Claire, in the booth, looking at the script that doesn't have quite so much swearing, and then getting this tirade of
Yeah, there was quite
and
a
how
few
you were keeping a straight face and just,
effing and jeffing.
Yeah.
I think it worked so well though. Like I think we've all met that boss that is dealing with the higher ups and it vents their frustration in certain ways. And I think it was the right choice. I think it's interesting swearing in audio because sometimes a one-off swear is very, very powerful as opposed to somebody who sort of S and Jeffs in every line. And it was so great because I think it was really the right decision. Like I just it came from a real place. I think if they had I was like that she found where they should be, if you know what I mean. As opposed to, I don't know if you find this, Emily, but sometimes if I write slang into a script or I write swears into a script, they don't fit the person. And it can be quite hard to find exactly what that person would say.
I think my favourite of all of them, and she was doing them as asides as well while other characters were speaking. So there's one scene where she met Kravek, played by the brilliant Ethan Reed, and so Kravek walks into the room and says, "Hello, Zerikin," and she says, "Oh, hello, Kravek," and under her breath says, "You shady bastard."
That was not scripted. That was definitely an ad lib.
Hopefully Ethan didn't read into that one too much.
No. And I had my my mouse poised over that line to cut it out, and then thought, what am I doing? It's got to stay in there.
Yeah.
So I think I just took the volume down slightly, so it really did sound like an aside. But so classically Sarah.
She just gives you extra. She goes to the script and then gives you more, and I love that. And because these characters, like one of the things with Wasteland, with the Dex Legacy, all of the characters are very set in my head because I've written books. They are the stars of the books. With Wasteland, it was set in the same world, but these characters are brand new. So when working with the cast, with you and the rest of the cast, sort of saying, what you can. There's places these characters can go in a way that can't be done in the other show, like we can play with it. And so being able to give the actors some freedom. I know that Ethan brought a whole bunch of stuff to Kravik as well, thoughts and and how to play it. And John Glover really took on a persona for the kits and really owned that part. And obviously you did all of the groundwork for Sax, and it's wonderful almost having less history with these characters, because then you get to pass so much more over and just enjoy what the actors do. And that was a lot of fun, actually.
Now
the other person that we mentioned there, the character Therese, played by Kareem Cromfley. Now you hadn't worked with Kareem before. I think we met briefly on a table read on Zoom, didn't we?
That was lovely. Working with Kareem was really great, and also surprised to me of I think we really found that rapport literally in the moment. We just started reading and we were like, oh, this is who they are. I don't think I'd made any decisions about more depth to their relationship before I went into that space. I hadn't found that my reading on my own. And then we got in there and it came out naturally, like a little bit of cheeky banter, a little bit of history, a little bit of friendship in there. And that was such a lovely surprise. And that's exactly when rolling the dice with sort of whether or not people gel it worked out, and that was a really nice experience for me as well. Those are the moments as an actor you're like, we've got it. I found something there, and that's really fun.
Well, we were having moments as well in the so myself and Emily are in the control room listening to you through speakers, and we communicate through a system of sort of raised eyebrows and sideways glances and
Sort
thumbs
of like,
ups, and Emily's writing, doing little smiley faces in the margin of the notes and showing them to me, awarding imaginary gold stars and stickers to actors. But I
yep.
mean, it really did, because that could have been quite a transactional relationship, couldn't it? It's like, what shall we do now, Captain? We're going to do this.
Mhm.
There was some. I mean, there was. I think there's a combination of the stuff that was in the script, but what you brought to it, and I just think Kareem is an amazing actor.
Yeah.
But you just, as you say, you just gelled, and it was lovely
Mhm.
to hear.
Yeah, it's really nice because it could have been a military relationship of I've worked with him before. I think he's efficient. I think he's good. And then we got there, and I think it's quite a human choice as well to have the people that you work well with, the people that you get on with.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
I think she went, you know what, we actually really gel. I want this person in my team. That's the person I would think of if I want to bring someone onto the program. So it sort of naturally built its own backstory without us doing anything. Like it
Mm.
just happened, and that was yeah, it was a real pleasure, and it made the day loads of fun.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I think of all the recording days we've had, actually, those the two we had for Wasteland, just so enjoyable, weren't they?
Yeah.
And part of that as
Yeah.
well. I mean, the other members of your Mecha Giant team, George Stagnall playing Ezra, and Sophie McNair as
Hmm.
Vorsi. I mean, each brought amazing performances,
Yeah.
and it was just so much fun doing the scenes where. I mean, they weren't necessarily fun scenes because you were in a disaster zone trying to help people out, but we've got some great little outtakes from the end of every scene. Everyone's going, "Yeah, that was great. That was really good." And
I think it's great to have an opportunity to play a group with good sort of camaraderie. Like that's
mm,
a lovely opportunity because you get to find where you gel and what each how each person's character gets on with each other.
mm,
And we found that order quite quickly. And I did start feeling a bit mummy in some moments of like, oh, let them play. They'll wear
yes,
Yeah.
themselves out in a bit. Such a fun role to step into.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really like when I was writing the mecha the unit, I
Mhm.
was sort of aware of the idea that actually like if Sarah has a counterpart on the sort of mature soldier side, then there needs to be a pair who are younger and more
Mhm.
sort of like, and actually you get this sense that they haven't seen much action, especially Vorsi, who
Yeah.
goes into it and has not been in direct conflict situation before,
Mhm.
but sort of just goes into it in a very like, yeah, but I've, this is my job now, and doing it in her very, very specific way. But then Ezra and also feeling particularly inadequate and everything. But then the sort of care that comes from you and Therese, and the natural balance of the voices there. Like there's a moment when Ezra has a very gut reaction and is about to shoot down the Dex ship, and you order him to stop, and Therese is like, don't do this, and then he stands down and everything, and there's sort of like this group, like
Mhm.
he's inexperienced, we need to keep this control, but he has a very human reaction to it. And I just loved how all of those elements came together, and how like you never know as a writer, is this actually going to come across, is this going
Mhm.
to gel?
mm,
And it really did. It was
Yeah,
wonderful.
I think it came out so naturally. It was such a a reflection of real like orders within those groups, if you see what I mean, within those settings of having someone in charge who I don't want to put her forward as jaded. She's just experienced and
Mm.
wise and knows when to be cautious and knows when to hold back and watching young people who I think she very much sees herself in as well and
Mm-hmm.
gets on with. And, I think Sari goes into a lot of those group scenes and goes, I have been you. I know what you're thinking now. I know what you're going to do next. Don't do that. um,
Yeah.
and that's what makes the leadership work. And yeah, it was really
yeah.
fun.
I think one of
Yeah.
my favourite little passages of the series was the in episode 3, the really tense scenes that you had with Sophie McNair,
Mm.
where you were in the underground base and you discover the missile. Spoilers here if you've not listened to episode 3.
Yeah,
Um,
lots of spoilers.
but I mean, I just the way you played that, and this is one of the things that as a sound designer, someone doing the post production, you never you get what you think is a great performance in the studio sometimes doesn't give you what you need to get the
Mm.
tension that you require or you want to achieve in the post production, but that absolutely did. And
Oh, thank goodness. About you
I
to say, oh, unfortunately, that was one of those occasions.
yes, and so the episode really fell
Oh,
flat on its face. I
bloody
thought,
hell, don't tell me that
apart,
right now, Chris.
no, it was so which was a real shame. So we got another actor in, recorded it, and it was fine. But no, I thought it was wonderful. In fact, it was one of those occasions, the opposite of that. It actually became more tense, I think, as we added the sound effects on. There was a couple of other voices that weren't there in the studio that were added on as well. So I think you gave me all the tools I needed for post-production and building up
Yeah.
the tension and the world.
I think the lovely thing about Orpheus as well, of we were able to record 3 people at the same time, and being able to have the other actors to play off and
Yes.
read the scene and build that tension together. It's yeah, that was wonderful. That was a really nice experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, a little bit about Orpheus, because it is a wonderful place, isn't it? You had worked there, was it once before,
Yeah, just
Marie
the one.
Claire? I mean, so first of all, how does a setting like that compare to, stage or a film set in terms of the performance you bring to it?
Yeah, I mean, it in some ways it feels quite exposing because, like I said before, it's that loss of your physicality and all these other things that you can use as an actor. So, like several of your tools get taken away, basically, and then you get left with one. So it can feel quite exposing to just be in the booth and you can hear yourself so loudly in the headphones, and you're like, "Oh, better pull this off." But it's also really lovely as well because you get to focus more on the words and what they're really saying and what you're bringing to them, and thinking about the process of exactly how am I going to convey that just through this one sentence, in a way. So it makes you look more in depth as an actor, I think, being in that little room. But also speaking about Orpheus in general is great because you can have line of sight with other actors, and so you get to look people in the eye. Like recording at home, I have, especially during lockdown, things recorded audio dramas at home where I don't know how the other person's going to say it. I don't know
Sure.
I don't know, vibe is like. So getting to read that in the space is really wonderful, and it's such a gift as an actor in doing voice work.
Yeah,
Especially.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting
Yeah.
you mentioned about the physicality, because I always think there is a lot more physicality in voice acting than
Then people think,
people realise,
yeah,
actually.
there is stuff. There's some things that are very hard to fake, like being out of breath or being in states of tension, and you learn to use those, but in a different way than you would on stage. I find it quite interesting. I'm gonna absolutely butcher this now. There was a Russian part of training that we did when I was at drama school that was about creating emotional movements for words. So instead of creating a sort of almost physical expression of a feeling. So for a very cut down example, it would be like gripping your hands means tension, or throwing your arms wide means love, or do you know what I mean? It was this exercise you do, and you do all of these movements paired with a script, and then you'd go away and you'd lose the movements and you'd do the script again, and you'd see where you found those expressions.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think there is a lot of that in voice acting. So there's moments where we're doing something very intense, very physical, and you have to feel the tension in your body for it to come out in your voice. And there's only so much you can you can fake doing physical exertion, or when you're emotional, you move your hands a lot. You just have to try not to make them make any noise. That's the thing.
Yeah, don't hit the microphone if possible.
Yeah, exactly. And it can be very difficult, I think, when you have those very tense scenes where you're like, I want to grip this and shake it, and I want my voice to say that. And there's some bits of physicality you can trick in there. And I think sometimes if you looked in the booth, I would have looked a bit insane. So hopefully there was no recording.
No, actually, we did have a camera in the booth all the time, Mary Claire.
No, we did not.
See some footage from that now. No.
Talking to myself in a padded room, it's not a great look, is it?
It depends. I mean, it is your job.
Yeah, true.
So
if you're getting paid for it.
Yeah, if you're getting paid for it, it's fine.
Yeah. And so, I mean, another thing that always happens at the end of our days, well, we go for a drink, which is always very enjoyable, very important. And then there's this point where the actors all go, so that's done then, bye, and they walk away. And I'm thinking, well, me and Emily are thinking, well, it's the start of it for us, really, because we've now got to make the thing. So it's quite a while ago, wasn't it? But that we actually did the recording. So how was it listening to Wasteland for the first time with all the effects and things? Did you recognise and remember those?
It's so funny because it was so long ago, really, that we recorded, and jumping back into that world was really fun, and it gave me a bit of distance. Like, normally I'm not the biggest fan of listening to myself. I think everyone understands that. Like, I think we're all in your voice back in a video and you're like, oh god. Actors aren't immune to that, unfortunately. I wish we got some sort of magic pill that made that less but because of all the sort of audio landscaping and everything, it was jumping into a new world, which was really fun. And I found myself getting really gripped by the story, and I was like, I have read this, like, that's me, like, I have done this before. But also the landscaping brings such a new dynamic to it, I think. And what's really fun actually is listening back and hearing which ones are exactly how I pictured them when I read the script. So like the rumbling or the mech sounds or things like that, I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I imagined it. And and once I'm like, oh, that's fun, I forgot that would be in that room. Do you know what I mean? It was nice rediscovering that story that way.
One thing I think I was able to do in post-production was almost increase the rapport between Sax and Nova, her mech. So there's just a few little hints there about, I think Emily's written things like Nova chirps or whatever. Yeah. But Sax is always having this little dialogue. So it's like, all right, Nova, let's do this or whatever. I've listened back to this a lot, so I almost know it by heart. But what I tried to do was to give Nova a voice, these little chirps and tweaks and glitchy sort of digital sounds, so it felt a bit more like you were in conversation, albeit that this thing was talking a language that no one's going to be able to understand.
The mech so much more, and they become characters as well, and I think that really adds to the stakes of the whole program being shut down, because it isn't just, you know, driving a tank and I don't get to drive my tank anymore. It's this whole living thing that I have integrated with, that I'm, do you know what I mean? It adds more people into the story in a way that you don't expect.
Yeah, it's like a partnership is the way I see it. And I think one of the things for me, actually, unexpectedly as a writer, because you write, again, it's like you write it and then everyone brings things to it, and then re-listening to it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that happened. But there's the moment when Ezrin uses Kahua to brace the ceiling of the underground thing, and then gets out and does his, you know, sort of medic thing, and you get a real sense of sort of, they are a partnership, you know, like they can work doing their thing independently but also then become the whole. And obviously Nova and Sax have exactly this thing. Vorsi and Ciri have their own partnership where Ciri's just lifting her around the hangar and everything, like independently, and yeah, there is a real sense of partnership to that. And I think the sound effects really brought that to life. But I remember when we were doing the mixing and Chris, you were messaging me and saying, so at what point, so Sarah is at this moment talking to the team but not to the outside, And then in this moment, Sarah's talking to the outside, but not to her team, but the front of Nova is up or down. And it was all of these little like tweaks that had to happen, because in some scenes it's like she talks to Nova and then she talks to her team and then she flips so that she can address the people on the outside of Nova on the ground, and then she flips so she's just talking to the team again, and it's like there's multiple sort of modes of conversation happening.
It's all about viewpoints, isn't it? So we deliberately made it from Sax's viewpoint, so we are in the cockpit with Sax most of the time. All the other characters are on the radio, so we're hearing your voice naturally, their voice distorted. You spend all this money on an expensive studio, get pristine audio, and then fuck it up in post-production.
Absolutely, hats off to you, Chris, because that sort of work is, I think, the moment if you put me in an editing suite and you said I had to create that sound of them sitting inside a mech and then talking to the front bit and then the top's up and then the team's at the far side, I think I just hear like a beep, like a disconnected sound in my mind. My brain would go beep, and I wouldn't even know where to start. Well, so you've done such a great job of mixing it.
You should have seen some of the messages I was sending to Emily. Like, I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not sure this is ever going to sound any good. Why do you think it took so long for it to come out? But, no,
I was just like, yes, you can. But I was in the back of my mind, I was thinking, you must.
Yeah. Well, we have no choice now, so
yeah.
Absolutely. But I think it's like anything. You get into a way of working, don't you? And you as I think you do as an actor or you do as a writer. It's tough to get started, but then you get on a roll, don't you? And
yeah.
So, I mean, is audio drama something you'd like to do more of, Mary Claire? Because you are just such a talented voice actor. It's So I mean, I should say
this is a dangerous question, Chris, because if she says no, then
I'm off it for life. Couldn't drag me back. No.
You're hearing the cancellation of Wasteland live.
It was such a dreamy experience. Yeah, I'd absolutely jump back. I mean, there was a little hint at the end of MG2, maybe, I don't know. It was just in the finals of the script.
Yes, it was set up for there to be a bit more. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a lovely experience to sit with another actor and find that journey together. So yeah, I think I'd find it very hard to turn down any scenario, really, because I don't know. It was just joyful. I don't know about you, but I had a lot of fun. It's a great way to spend a day.
Definitely had a lot of fun. It was so enjoyable. And so other creative things that you've got on or got planned, any more writing planned? Because we should mention Pamplemousse, your
Pamplemousse is a play I wrote a couple of years ago. I actually wrote it during lockdown, so it's getting old now. I'm like, honey. It's a comedy farce that I wrote during lockdown about living in a London flat share with a bunch of sort of strangers and friends whilst you're locked into the house. And I don't know what I'm doing with it currently. I've got some meetings set up with this week. I'd love to put it back on as a play. I put it on as an R&D last year and it's sold out and I had lovely reception, and it's just quite hard to fund yourself putting a show on. So watch out for maybe a Kickstarter turning up on my socials at some point. But also I'm looking at maybe turning that into a short film, which would be really cool. Because it's all set in one room, so it would be a relatively easy short film to shoot.
Yeah.
But also I have some writing projects on. But it's very easy to say I have writing projects on. How much writing is actually on the page is another question.
I mean, I'm still working on my debut novel and have been since I was 12.
Yeah,
so
it's one of those things. So I've got some things that I have planned, and it was my New Year's resolution to get them ready for a certain point this year. So I have a date lined up. So I don't know. Keep your eyes open, and
excellent.
Maybe I'll sit down and do some work at some point.
Indeed.
Well, they say like 90% of writing is in the head.
Yeah.
and then
Thank you.
it
I like
comes
that.
out on the page. Yeah, no, it's true though. I am thinking about writing 24/7. The amount of time I actually spend on the sofa doing the writing bit, because that's where I write
Yeah.
with my headphones on the sofa, and like just like that. And yeah, the amount of time you spend thinking about it versus actually writing it, it is very much weighted towards the thinking. So really what you are doing is marinating and percolating and refining.
I'm like a rich
And
dark coffee. I'm percolating
exactly,
slowly,
yeah,
and what will come out will be delicious. I don't know where I was going with that.
absolutely, yeah, we'll
I
just
was
pour
wondering where
out
you were
all
going
of
with that,
this
Mary Claire. But
well thought
I
out
think you pulled it off
stuff.
in the end.
Yeah, did I did that smoothly, didn't I? That was
Kind
can you
of,
tell
yeah.
I'm a writer, obviously.
Yeah,
That's right.
I'll take your weird
Milk and
statement
two
of
sugars for
metaphor
me,
and make it
please.
poetic.
Yeah, sure. Don't quote me on that one, thank you.
Yeah. And there's a poetry collection, isn't there, which is available on the site named after a South American rainforest, I believe.
Yes, yeah. Bezos himself posted it for me. Lovely man.
Good old Jeff.
Cheers, Jeff. No, so my debut collection, Lemon Pips and Loneliness, it's a small collection. It was a bucket list thing that I've always gone. I've wanted to post a poetry collection. The poetry world is crazy competitive, and I went, why am I waiting for someone else to do it? I'll just do it myself. So I don't really earn any money off it. Really, if you have Amazon, you can get it free. So go on there, give it a little download, give it a little read. It's a collection of poetry that I wrote from moving to London, and there's 3 sections in it, and they cover different themes on there's one about it's all sort of love, sex, and food. The
Which is a great
three main
combination,
pillars of
really.
life, really.
Yeah,
Absolutely, yeah.
And it was always a passion I've had since I was young, and this was just a little dream come true to pull it together. So if you fancy an easy, simple read, then I would say give it a little 12. Plus, it's designed really. I did it all myself. It's designed really nicely with my own photography. So I'd appreciate any feedback, to be honest. And you can hear me reading some of those poems on Lovely Chris's podcast on Alternative Stories. There was a couple
Yeah.
of the ones that I've read for you. I read Binder's Blue.
Binder's Blue. What?
For
And
you.
we made a little video of that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's on my YouTube as well, that and Binder's Blue. Oh, it was lovely you did a little audio mix for me. I really appreciated that.
Yeah.
But that was
it
one of
was,
my
I
favorite.
really liked your poetry. I thought it was excellent and
Thank you.
very, very relatable, I thought.
Yeah, I don't think poetry needs to be completely unapproachable. I think a lot of the poetry that we're given in school isn't something you relate to. It's written by you're a 15-year-old and someone gives you a poem written by a 65-year-old man in the 1420s, and you're like, great, thanks.
Brilliant.
I'm going to remember this one. And actually, as I've got older, I found this love of poetry that was about life and tangible things that we experience now. And there is poetry that sort of transcends time. And I'm a big Shakespeare fan, and so much of that still resonates. But I also think that there's space for modern language. It doesn't have to be unapproachable. It can be just as beautiful, but new and fresh, and from a voice that you can understand. And that was my intention, I think, with that poetry.
yeah,
Well,
definitely.
Whether I pulled it off, who knows? But
Well,
Hey, look, you came up with a
good.
collection. That's a huge achievement, and the fact that you did it, and it's got an identity, and it's part of you, and that's no
yeah, it's
small
fun.
achievement.
And
It's amazing.
thank you. And I've enjoyed reading them at little open mics around London. Now and again,
Yeah.
I'll jump on an open mic and give them a read, and that's really enjoyable. I think poetry is like actually a really lovely sort of family in like a lot of places, that people come very willing and open to listen to something, having absolutely no idea what form or style it could come out in. So I really sort of encourage people to explore new poetry. If you don't think that there was anything that suited you before, I promise you there's something that suits you. It's just you weren't exposed to it, and you could go seek it out yourself.
Well, we'll put a link to the collection. We'll put a link to the podcast of you performing your own poetry from alternative stories, and all other links as well. We'll put a link to Fraser Armitage's drama, Postcards from Another World, to hear Mary Claire and Sarah Golding in other roles. Still sci-fi.
Yeah, it was sci-fi as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely was. Now, we are going to end this interview shortly, but there is one, critically important question.
Yes.
We've just scratched the surface really up to this point. And I'm going to let Emily ask this question because it really does get to the heart of everything.
Oh my God.
Digging deep.
I should call my publicist, I think, before I answer this one.
Sorry, guys, my internet froze just for a moment there, at the critical moment of the big question. So
no one tell him the answer.
No, I'm just trying to guess. I mean, I don't like rich two fingers myself, but I'm sure that's not what you came up with. So, Emily, could you ask the question again, just so that we've got it
Absolutely.
for the recording?
So this is the sole question. It pretty much is, to everybody's personal life, the universe and everything. Yes. What is your favourite biscuit and why?
How am I meant to answer that, Emily?
I know, it's big. It's big. Yeah.
Oh, okay. We're talking with tea, we're talking without tea.
That is entirely up to you. Yeah.
Oh my God, the universe. I don't want to... Can I do top three? Is that allowed? Is the top three allowed?
Sure. Yeah, there's barely any rules apart from answering the question.
Okay. I think ginger nut's number 3. Love a ginger nut. All-round classic, great in tea. Number 2, I'm going to go McVitie's chocolate digestive. I'm not allowed to buy them. That's all I'll say. I will eat a pack of McVitie's chocolate digestives like a little bag of crisps, like you just sort of munch away. I will do that, but it will be the whole tube, and so I'm just on a ban. But I think number 1 is just a classic shortbread. Buttery, sweet, indulgent.
That is a great answer.
I love it.
I have a shortbread biscuit or two every afternoon with my final coffee of the day.
That's the dream, Chris. You've made it.
I do like it.
You've made it.
Creature of habit.
Yeah, exactly. And I can't believe you've done that. I'm going on holiday in April, and I've got to not eat biscuits until then. So thank you so much
for putting biscuits in your head.
Yeah. All afternoon I'd be thinking about biscuits now.
Of course, we should say the biscuit of choice in the studio is the Tunnocks caramel wafer. Was Wasteland the day when we had them, or there was one day we recorded and we went to the shop near the studio and they were out of Tunnocks caramel wafers. So
it was like, what the hell is this?
I almost cancelled the recording day because you
having been on, I was on a film. Like a couple of years ago now, actually, but it's coming out this year. It's called My Sister's Bones. I think it's just been renamed as Beneath, actually. But there was a couple days in the first week where we didn't have a tea table. So on all film sets, there is a tea and coffee table that is accessible all day, all night. The film industry does not survive without people being able to make themselves a cup of tea at 3 a.m, at 2 p.m, whenever they want it. And I watched a film fall apart in front of me. I watched a crew. I watched the life drain from their eyes as we didn't have tea and coffee. And we literally, I think they hired a new person and they were like, you are in charge of the tea and coffee. And then we smashed the film out after that. Isn't that funny? So I understand it. It's an important thing. You've got to have those sustenances.
It's absolutely critical, I think.
Tea, coffee and a biscuit. It's the foundation.
One of the things, we're recording this kind of at lunchtime. I haven't eaten lunch,
Mm.
and my tummy is doing noises and sound
That's
effects.
why you're wrapping it up. I understand.
Yeah, I've just got to get out of here.
As we've just been talking about biscuits.
One of my favourite outtakes in a scene with you and Sarah was when she said, midway through a very serious speech, there was a little pause, and she said, "You see, that's my tummy rumbling." So I will see if I can find that, because they're really
so
sensitive
loud.
microphones.
Yeah, I could hear it through my own my own headphones, and I was like, there is absolutely
Christ.
no way he's going to be able to isolate that from
Are
my
we doing the
voice.
sound design live in the studio?
Yeah, I'd
Honestly,
like to.
I was doing a recording the other day, and it was quite a long recording, and my stomach was creaking.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Every
No
time I
one
moved,
tells
it was
you
like
this. About voice acting, I feel like that's something they should bring up when you're training as an actor. It's like, if you're doing a voice acting role, one, drink lots of water the night before so your mouth doesn't
Yes.
sound gross and sticky.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
on the day, eat lunch, eat snacks, bring snacks with you, because
Yeah.
you will rumble more than you've ever rumbled in your life. And
Yeah.
there'll be a room full of people looking at you through plain glass going,
Well, or being
"So
being,
not-
being
yeah,
able to hear it,
breakfast."
like and yeah. So Tunnocks wafers and little bags of mini cheddars, just to keep the rumbles
Yeah.
away.
And I would like to just clear my name and say, me bringing up my tummy rumbling wasn't me saying we're having lunch. I wasn't being a diva. It was a genuine audio concern.
Oh, you
That's
did
important,
storm. You did storm out of the booth at one stage and say, "Right, we
did.
need to go to lunch now." We absolutely. You didn't.
I simply must. I simply must. I threw my feather boa around my shoulder and I said,
Yeah.
I simply must have a tongue.
Not,
TK.
not a word more will pass my lips until
lunch.
a falafel and yogurt wrap.
It was a great choice.
It was a great choice. Excellent. Well, Mary Claire, thank you so much for joining us today. It's always a pleasure, and you have been on top form today. Emily Inkpen, thank you for joining us. And yeah, do check out some of Mary Claire's other work and follow her on social media. I mean, we'll put links, but are you always the same name on
I'm
social?
at Mary Claire Wood on everything. So do give me a follow, say hi. Happy to talk about the series as well. And also thank you, Chris and Emily. It's always lovely chatting and also working with you. So whenever you fancy, give me a call.
Oh, there we go. We're a written series and a Kickstarter away, but
Yeah, exactly.
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, we will. So that you heard it here first folks. Series 2 of Wasteland is happening. Mary Claire is in. Emily's going to write it. We should have it to you in the next 3 weeks or so.
Yeah,
No.
no pressure.
No pressure. And Emily's just fallen off her chair.
Oh no, we've ended this interview by killing Emily.
I know.
Oopsie.
The mere suggestion was enough.
So
Tipped her
maybe
over
you
the
could
edge.
write it, Mary Claire. You know, we talked
Oh
about
gosh.
your. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.